So what is forum theatre? Forum theatre is really the methodology of dialogue. It's the methodology of self-mobilization. It is the methodology of self-belief, of self-activation. It is the methodology of love. People who work with forum theatre, people who work with the theatre of the oppressed, have a deep faith in humanity, in our capacity to overcome our problems, to overcome and transform our oppressions, our injustices. It is the methodology that believes that change is not only possible, but it's necessary. It uses different forms of games and exercises. It uses different forms of theatre to create spaces for communities to, as the founder of this methodology, Augusto Boal said, analyze the past in the context of the present in order to create a better future. Forum theatre is a rehearsal for change, a rehearsal for the future, and indeed a rehearsal for revolution. The theatre of the oppressed can be used for any issue. It's really important to stress, so anything that is related to problems, and conflicts and oppressions that exist in today's communities around the world, and especially speaking about indigenous communities, speaking about communities that are currently struggling to make their voices heard, to find solutions for some of the major challenges that have emerged over the last few decades of modernization and contact with perhaps an outside world which until very recently seemed inexistent. The methodology can be used. The methodology is a methodology that really puts people into the center of attention. It believes in the wisdom of communities, and I think as a result it makes it an ideal tool for indigenous communities, for rural communities all over the world. The process of bringing people together to use the theatre to analyze their problems and conflicts is just as important as the final performance. So from the perspective of consulting communities, from the perspective of providing a space for people to come together to discuss important issues, the process of using the methodology is absolutely instrumental. So one thing that we always do in every forum theatre process is we spend a lot of time playing different games and exercises that are used with many different objectives in mind, one of which being to create a space where we can start humanizing each other, where we can first start humanizing ourselves, getting back in touch with our bodies, getting in touch with our emotions, getting in touch with our own thoughts and ideas about the world we live in, but of course also humanizing the other. And through the games and exercises, we really start a process of relationship building, both with others and with ourselves, that more often than not makes a very important contribution with regards to an enhanced sense of self-esteem and self-worth at the end of the forum theatre journey, which happens no matter whether there is a performance or not.
Trust our friend, or if we compare with the villager, we have to trust our villager in the community. If we do something wrong, they can help and support me to try again, to try to do the best way.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
The game also presents the possibility of symbolic interpretation, symbolic connections through the game with the realities, the oppressive realities that surround us. So in most cases, what we will do after playing a game with the participants, we will ask them a number of questions, where we invite them to make links to real life, to make connections to situations from their own lives that need to be solved, or that are problematic, that are currently causing suffering and harm.
If we could distribute power, we hold amount of power, and there is no group of people holding too much power, we could have prevent our problems.
We're inviting reflections on a personal level. What does the game mean to you? What can we discover on a personal level? What do we learn as a result of the game? So each game is really not just a game, but it's always an opportunity for dialogue. It is an opportunity for reflection. It is an opportunity for kind of stimulation of critical thinking.
You will also face mistakes every day of your life, like this game. So after mixing, you should learn something, and after that, you will overcome.
When you were following the hand, how did you feel?
I really feel sad.
I feel so proud.
I feel excited.
And so of course one thing that we also try to do through these exercises is to demechanize our thought processes. Let's start thinking new thoughts. Let's try out new ideas and let's see what happens. And so the process of the theater of the oppressed, the process of using these games and exercises is also a process of experimenting with the world around us. It's an invitation to make mistakes and learn from the mistakes without being punished, without being ostracized, without being told, don't you do that again, you don't know what you're doing. But on the contrary, we celebrate our mistakes, we invite them into the process, and we hopefully learn something from them for the betterment of the communities. The main character in the theater of the oppressed in general, and forum theater in particular, is known as the protagonist. The protagonist, sometimes the oppressed person, the oppressed community. It's a person who is not a victim. He or she is not somebody who has given up or who is merely passively receiving other people's negative behaviors. But the protagonist in forum theater is somebody who tries to solve the problem, who tries to overcome the oppression, but who ultimately fails. The main counterpart to the protagonist in the theater of the oppressed is what's known as the antagonist, or sometimes the oppressor character. It is usually the person or sometimes the institution that is an obstacle for change. It is an obstacle for the desires of the protagonists to be met. It is a person who is not necessarily a monster, it is not necessarily a bad person. Forum theater is not a struggle between good and evil, but it is somebody who probably believes that he or she has the best reasons and the best intentions, but whose intentions ultimately prevent our protagonists and prevent our communities to achieve what they want, to get what they want. So in every forum theater performance, in every forum theater scene, there is usually at least one protagonist and at least one antagonist, both of whom are engaged in a struggle, really, in a struggle of wills, in a struggle of desires, where the protagonist wants one thing and the antagonist wants something else, and as a result of this clash of desires, there's a conflict, there's an oppression, because usually one of the two holds more power over the other, and as a result, at least one party doesn't get what they want. The term Joker comes from the deck of cards, the Joker that plays different roles, has different functions depending on the situation. He or she is first and foremost somebody who really knows the methodology, somebody who to a certain degree is an expert in the different techniques of the theater of the oppressed, who knows the different games and exercises, who has a repertoire of exercises that he or she applies, uses with different communities. Basically the Joker does whatever he or she needs to do in order to make sure that the process works, that the process is owned by the community, that the process meets its goals in terms of constantly generating community dialogue. Would you say there was progress? Would you say the situation has improved? The Joker is also a difficultator. The word facilitator comes, of course, from the Latin facile, and facile means easy, to make easy and to make it comfortable. The Joker is not necessarily that. Of course, on the one hand, he or she tries to promote an area, an atmosphere, a space where the audience and participants feel comfortable in participating. But at the same time, the role of the Joker is also to, through questions, give everybody in the room a possibility to gain a deeper understanding of the problem at stake, and as a result, he or she sometimes has to also ask unpopular and uncomfortable questions, and in a sense becomes some kind of devil's advocate. The Joker is really not an expert. Certainly not an expert in the sense of having the answer to the problems that the community is there to discuss. In forum theater, we only ever show the problem. It is a bottom-up tool with regards to the fact that in forum theater we show the problem, we show some of the reasons behind the problem, and then we invite audiences to come on stage and try out solutions. In that regard, forum theatre is not really a good form of theatre to pass a message. It's not really a good form of theatre if you think you know the answer. Yeah. But forum theatre is a great form of theatre if we don't know the answer, if we have a question, if we really want to find an answer to a question that is of absolute urgency for the people of the community, but where ultimately we're not entirely sure what to do, where we really have our own ideas obviously, but we don't really know what to do, and where we want to work out potential solutions together with the larger community.
And at this stage, you just watch. For 6 minutes, 7 minutes, I'm inviting you to watch the performance. And then after the performance, I will come back and I will ask you a couple of questions. What can we do differently to solve the problem? Yeah, just for like 30.
Give some idea to our community. So I think sometimes it's the government or authority person is need because of that they don't care to the community.
Somebody else, so can you come and play the NGO? Let's give her some applause. Come on. Pay close attention. What is her idea? What is she trying to do? Does it work? Does it not work? Or say, just watch very carefully. What is her strategy? Okay? Yeah. So with me, whenever you're ready, we'll do 1, 2, 3, action. Thank you very much. Great idea.
I think together we can make a difference. Together with the people, with the communities, with this wonderful methodology, we can make a contribution to change. Change is possible, it's necessary, and you know, we cannot wait for it to happen. There's always time for action, and I think the time is now. And this is one of the most unique, beautiful, and powerful methodologies that can make this contribution. So use it.
Now we are not afraid. Although we know there's much fear.
Now the time for people around Mekong region to stand up to protect our river, our life, our rights, our community. I strongly believe in our power. I strongly believe we can change our future by our hand. So now we need to start and work together.
Sometimes we feel we just like some ordinary people who cannot make any changes. But we can.
It's never hopeless. Just do our best, do what we believe, and smile.